Happy New Year, everybody, and thank you for joining us for today's Digital Making at Home live stream. Welcome back after the break. If you haven't already, say hello to us in the chat and let us know where you're watching from. We've got a global audience now. It's always amazing to see where everybody's tuning in from today. I'm Mr C, and I'm coming to you live from Cambridge in the UK, and with me, as always, is the amazing Christina. How are you, Christina?
Hello. Hi, Mr. C. Happy New Year. I'm joining from Nebraska, and thank you to everyone joining us from your homes all over the world. I'm seeing someone already, N8Fu on Twitch from Nashville, Tennessee. I'm seeing, Nathaniel's just excited that we're almost starting. Hi, Nathaniel. Thanks for joining us. It's so great to see everyone. Today's going to be great. We've got an awesome guest to kick off 2021. This week we'll be chatting with Jonic, one of the developers at the foundation, one of my favorite folks at the foundation. Yes, he'll come on and chat with us about a super cool game he developed called Knifey Spooney. Does anyone get the reference? We'll tell you what the reference is later. And we'll show you how to make your own version in Scratch. So seeing lots of people on the chat today. Saw some folks from Nathaniel, Pro Gaming on YouTube. Welcome. We're excited to code with you. Larby on Facebook from Morocco. Carlos, Ecuador, and then Edinburgh, Chris in Edinburgh. Lufula, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Pakistan, Brazil. Hello. This is so cool. Hi, Allison. Thanks so much for joining us. This is great. Oh, we've got such a great group of folks. How was your break, Mr. C?
It was good. It was quiet, and necessity meant that the family hung out together, and we were really chilled, and we watched a lot of movies and played a lot of the new board games that we were given by Father Christmas. So that was really good.
Oh, same. Yeah, actually very similar. Like lots of good movies and board games. Any board games that stick out for you that you had fun with?
Yeah, we got a really random one actually called Throw Burrito. So you have like a card game, and you have to get like 3 of a kind, and when you do it, like it triggers an event where everybody is therefore at war and has to grab one of these spongy burritos off the table and then chuck it at the nearest person. It was really fun. It got crazy.
That's amazing. That sounds amazing. We, one of my best friends gave us cartographers, and it's actually a really fun game that we've been playing virtually. So everyone has a copy of it, and you are a cartographer exploring the land, and you've got your own map and you're coloring in what you're finding. So been really neat.
Amazing fun. I'd love to play that game.
Yeah, seeing folks also. We've got hello from Nigeria. Hi, Jerry on Facebook. John Scout in New York. John on YouTube. Oh, this is great. Hello, Marina in Mexico. Muhammad in London. It's so great to see so many of you online with us today. Mr. C, I had to ask, over the break, I thought of you because did you see the Boston Dynamics, the robot dancing video?
I did. I was obsessed. It was so good. Yeah.
Oh, here it is. Here it is.
Yeah, so good. It's like the pinnacle of robotics, right? Like when you watch what they're doing, like the synchronized part of it is really cool. The idea that these guys have been programmed to work together. I'm not sure whether it's a pre-programmed routine or whether they're synchronized like with one another to make sure it all works at the same time. But yeah, it's really, really cool. Like all the different things they're doing. You can see some of the stuff they've got these bipedal robots to do where they like jump and twist in the air and then land.
Yeah.
Like it looks amazingly smooth, but that is to be able to get a machine to do that and balance and keep itself propriocepting. Incredible technology, unbelievable.
Yeah, it definitely, and it just honestly, it looks like me and my dog Cassie on New Year's Eve. Dancing that's happening.
And have you taught Cassie any new tricks?
Oh yes, like we're a lot of new tricks happening, and just like repeating one that I've taught her is kind of it's just putting a treat down and having her wait for it, which is it took like a good couple days to get it, but she's doing that, and that's been really cool.
What's her release word for that trick? What do you use as her like? Do you tell her to wait, and then do you say like eat or go or?
I say okay. Yeah, that's You've trained animals before. You know the release word.
Not me. A friend of mine has he's got so many dogs, and they're like he just clicks his fingers and he doesn't have to talk anymore. He has gestures, and they do things. It's incredible. Yeah, friend in Australia.
Yeah, I want to move into the hand gestures, just in the hand gestures.
Cassie's an Australian Shepherd, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. So my friend's dog is an Australian Shepherd, and she's been trained to she can unlatch and open the back door to let herself in and stuff now. Like she's the cleverest dogs on the planet, Australian Shepherds. Amazing things.
Oh gosh. Let us know at home if you have an Australian Shepherd. Please, actually, if you have advice, I'd love to know what suggestions do you have. And seeing folks coming in. I'm seeing on Twitch, Kevin in Michigan, seeing Nathaniel, you're in California. Nathaniel thinks the robot video is pretty cool. We agree, Nathaniel. Thanks so much. Natalia is joining us. Happy New Year to you, Natalia, on YouTube. And she's a mom of 2 and has her 2 kids. What are their names, Natalia? We'd love to say hi. Thanks so much for joining. Hello from Greece. Oh, this makes me so happy. Yeah.
So and for those of you who are joining us for the first time this week, that's amazing. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Digital Making at Home is all about getting young people just like you coding, creating together with technology. Every week we chat with cool people like Jonic, we code together, and we see amazing digital making projects from all around the world. We're currently on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch right now. So we'll be able to see your comments on any of those platforms. Put it in the chat. We want to hear from you. A big shout out to Jack and Kiara, 2 of our most recent subs. Thank you for joining the community, guys. It's great to have you. Christina, how are we doing on that race to 1,000 subs? Have you checked lately? I forgot to look.
Oh, I checked, and we are over 1,000 subscribers, which is big. Because if you were on with us on our last show, I made the caffeinated promise that I would bring on Cassie Dog to join us. So she's going to join us today, a little bit late. She's napping right now, but I'll bring her on. And you can subscribe. Check out the link going to rpf.io/sub. And it's going to be big. Or we want to do something big when we get to 10,000 subscribers. So let us know what you think. Put in the chat. What should we do? I'm going to bring on Cassie today because we reached 1,000 and we're so grateful to all of you. So, all right, we've got a packed show today. We have a cool guest. We're going to do some coding, and we've got Cassie Dog. So stick around to the end, and you'll see the cutest puppy in the world.
Definitely. And again, put stuff in the chat. If you think, what should we do when we get to 10,000? Because I'd love to see some of the stuff that you guys come up with. They always throw us amazing bones when we ask in the chat. So should we bring Jonic on now and have a chat with him?
Yes. Come on, Jonic.
Jonic. Hey,
everyone.
How you doing, Jonic? Happy New Year.
I'm good, thank you. I'm a bit nervous, but I work with you two, so this should be okay. I just need to remember to just be on my best behavior.
Well, it's just the 3 of us.
I'm always nervous. Yeah, I'm nervous too, but I think you could be nervous and excited, right?
Definitely.
I'm glad I'm the support act for Cassie because she'd be a tough act to follow if she went on first.
Yeah. For sure. You both are great.
It's amazing that you came on this week. Thanks, man. It's really cool to have you. So could you explain to the audience? Oh, dude, you were one of our first picks. As soon as we started doing the live stream, I said, we need Jonic. And everyone was like, top idea. And we finally managed to book you. So we've a big get for us. We've managed to get Jonic on. Could you tell everyone a bit about yourself, man? It's just to know who you are.
So, yeah, I'm Jonic. My job title at Raspberry Pi is Senior Software Engineer, but that basically means I make websites and I just write code. Sometimes it works, which is great. I live in York in the UK. Yeah, I'm not sure. What else would you like to know? It's difficult me answering that question because you've asked it because you already know me. So
sure. Yeah, I totally get that. I guess a bit more specificity. Let's see. How did you start programming? I guess you're a professional programmer. You do it all day, and a lot of the young people who watch us, they sort of got the same idea. They'd like to do a bit of coding. How did you get started?
I did 1 term at college back in 1999 in the 20th century. I started programming. I did that 1 term and then I dropped out of college. In the UK, that's college is high school, I guess. It's not university. And a couple of years later, I was living with a couple of friends. We got broadband internet, or it was broadband at the time, but it was only half a meg, which was the fastest you could get in the UK at the time. It was amazing. And I just spent all my time online and I didn't have a job and I was a bit bored. And I kind of read all of the internet that was there and I figured, how do you make these things? So I just started learning how to make websites and I caught the bug and I just never stopped.
That's awesome, man. It does feel really powerful, right? When you're a young person and you start doing those things with code and you realize, oh, cool, it's not magic, right? It's just a thing that people do with a keyboard.
Yeah, when I put my first website online, it was amazing to think literally anyone on the internet could now go and look at this thing that I'd made just by myself. It's really empowering.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, super cool. And did you expect that when you started doing that and you sort of started messing around doing those things and feeling those first bursts of power and almost notoriety? I remember being at 2 and I saw this thing's on the internet, and everyone can see it, like you say. And did you expect that would lead to a job doing it, I guess, is the question.
That's a great question. And I love you say the burst of power.
Oh yeah, no, it's a big, for when I was younger, that the idea that machines did what you told them, and then when you worked out how to tell them the right instructions, that was a big deal for me as a young person. I really got that.
Yeah, I guess I couldn't really anticipate that I'd end up working at Raspberry Pi because, of course, the Raspberry Pi didn't exist when I started making websites. But I think I was very lucky that I was in the right place at the right time where the web was much easier to learn how to get into at the time. And yeah, I just sort of like walked into a job with no qualifications. I didn't go to university. I don't even have A-levels. So yeah, I was in the right place at the right time. So I'm very lucky. But yeah, I couldn't have seen it turn into a career back then, but I'm glad it has.
Wow, we're lucky to have you. We have a question from Eddie's Tech, a couple of questions. So let us know which ones you can answer. Jonic, what is the Raspberry Pi website coded in? Do you have a backend server? Is it? Let's start with the first one. What is the Raspberry Pi website coded in?
So the Raspberry Pi website, raspberrypi.org, is actually a collection of applications. So like there are several different programming languages in play on that one website. If you are looking at the blog, that is in PHP. It's a WordPress blog. If you're looking at the homepage and the products, now the download section or the software page where you download Raspberry Pi OS, that uses React.js. We do have a little bit of Node.js for the accounts. So yeah, we use Ruby on Rails as well, but I don't think that's in use on raspberrypi.org at the moment. It's quite a big website, so there's a lot of different parts to that particular machine. So
yeah, and as a software engineer on this, like, do you have to know all of those languages, Jonic? Do you specialize in one and just one part of the website?
It's useful to know a little bit about each of them, but when we hire developers, we never say like you have to be an expert in React or in Ruby on Rails. Like we're very flexible about taking people on who have the right attitude towards problem solving and making sure that they have the training and support that they need in order to be able to do the job.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point, having a good attitude about problem solving. And for those of you at home, especially if you're a young person getting started with coding, like Jonic said when he first started, like it's not going to work the first time that you code. And it's so important to approach that problem and think about how you can fix it. I love debugging. That's, I think, is one of the most important parts about being a coder, is actually loving attempting that challenge to figure it out and make it work.
Absolutely. For me, it was the opposite side. So the debugging is cool. I love hunting the problem. But more than that, I love deconstructing a problem and working out a solution to that. And I think recently I did that because I took your game, Jonic, and I built one in Scratch, which is what we're going to do today. And so that's my favorite part of coding and that problem solving, is to look at what's the problem I have, how do I solve this thing, deconstructing it into all the small parts. And I'll talk you through how I did that today, which I'm actually really excited to do, Christina. So
yes, yeah. We mentioned earlier when we first introduced you, Jonic, that you made a simple game a little while back called Knifey Spooney. Can you tell us a little bit about that game?
Yeah, it's I was working an event for Raspberry Pi. It was on the day that we launched the Raspberry Pi 3V Plus, to give you an idea how long ago that was. And someone mentioned that sketch from the Simpsons. Oh, sorry, Christine, I've ruined the reference.
No, that was the reference. Yeah, I wonder if folks got it. If you got it,
yeah.
Points
and
to
I was
you.
quite sleep deprived, and I just thought this would be kind of a fun game. So I prototyped it in my hotel room that night using Pico 8, and it took about an hour. And yeah, I brought it down to where everyone was hanging out that evening, and we all tried it, and people were having fun with it. So I thought, yeah, let's try and polish this up and see if I can turn it into something a little more, a little nicer to play. I got in touch with a pixel artist called Ribbon Black. I should mention Ribbon. Thank you very much for doing the artwork. So with the core concept in place and this amazing artwork, it was then a matter of sort of like polishing it up and turning it into what you see today. Although I did rewrite it like 3 or 4 times. I should have like stopped a long time before I actually did. But yeah, it's good fun, and people seem to like it.
What's Pico 8? What is Pico 8, Jonic? Because it's
Pico 8 is a fantasy video game console. So it behaves as if it was a real piece of hardware that existed back in the early days of gaming and computing, but it doesn't actually exist. It's just a piece of software. And it's built around the idea of like limitations. So you have a very limited color palette. Your programs can only be a certain number of lines long. And it forces you to stay within like quite a strict set of boundaries in order to make things simpler for yourself. So you don't end up getting a bit carried away with your idea. So it's perfect for things like Knifey Spooney. Have you heard of a video game called Celeste, which was quite big a couple of years ago?
Yes,
so Celeste was
awesome.
prototyped in Pico 8 over the course of like 4 days. And then when they saw that people were really enjoying playing it, they decided, let's turn this into a full game. And it's been a wildly successful indie game on pretty much every platform you can mention, actually. It's one of my personal favorites.
Amazing, man. What's your high score on Knifey Spooney, considering you're the dev?
I'm absolutely rubbish at it. It was a lot easier. I've got a version of it where instead of the images of knives and spoons, it just said the word knife or spoon. I'm really good at that version, but the one where you've actually got to like do some visual processing, I'm not so good. So the score you just got there, Mark, that's about as good as I am. That's it. Christina,
Cool.
you said that you've got quite a high score yourself.
Well, I got 30 recently.
Oof.
So,
Nice.
so I was playing with it when I first saw it, but I was playing it today and I couldn't get higher than that. So yeah,
that's very cool.
But yeah, so let us know if you get higher than that, and we'll celebrate you in the chat. You can check out, I think we have the link and we'll bring it back up. You can check out this game that Jonic made. And I love that you made it in a night just for fun. Like, I just think that's so cool. And this was, how many years ago was that now?
It was, well, 2 years ago, I guess. But
Okay.
like, I made the prototype in an evening, but the finished thing that you're seeing here, like, that took months because despite the fact that Pico 8 is built around this idea of limitations, I couldn't stop myself from rewriting it and improving it as I got better at Pico 8. So yeah, what the version that we have here is like the 4th iteration of it. And I still don't think it's done. Like the game over screen there, that's completely not finished and it has no sound or music. So I would have liked to have continued, but I had to just draw a line under it and get back to my actual job.
I love that. Yeah. The idea that a project is never done. There's more I could do. I can polish it in. I can make a few more beats. Like, yeah, that's cool.
Exactly.
I agree with that, man.
Eddie's Tech just got a score of 8. Sorry, I just wanted to celebrate Eddie's Tech. They just tried it. They got a score of 8.
Nice. Yeah, post your high scores, gang. Like, I'd love to see some high scores. Have you made a lot of games, Jonic, or is this the only one?
I haven't made a huge number of games. Following this, I did actually make a game with my my nephew Josh. Shout out to Josh if you're watching. We made a game called Borga Bill, and we did this over a weekend. And yeah, it's just a silly little game where you play as this little guy and you've just got to collect 15 burgers in as short a time as possible. So yeah, if anybody's watching and they want to have a go at that one as well and let us know how quickly you can eat 15 burgers, then yeah, please let us know.
That's so cool, man. This is really fun. This is a big game.
On the game, right? Not in real life. Not how fast you can eat 15 burgers in real life, in the game. Just confirming, just clarifying for folks.
But yeah, recently my another one of my nephews, Isaac, he's also designed a game. He's done an incredible array of like designs for this thing, and hopefully some point this year we'll get to program that together as well. Very
cool, man. That's awesome. Do you have any ideas for like a new game for yourself down the road, or do you think that's sort of just like it popped into your head and? Yeah, with Knifey Spooney, like inspiration just struck, and I just had to go and do it. I've got a list of ideas of games I would like to make at some point, but as with all things, it's about finding the time and not losing interest as well. I'm very good at starting projects, not so good at actually like completing them. Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, man. I'll come up with another idea at some point.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, should we crack on then? Christina, what do you think?
Yeah, let's do some coding. We mentioned, so we're going to be coding this game in Scratch, and I'm seeing a lot of fans of Scratch in the chat. So we set up, Mr. C, tell us a little bit of how we can get started. And I think you have a starter project, right?
Yeah, so there is a starter project. The link popped up here, just rpf.io/Knifey Spooney. So, I mean, when Jonic released his game, it was a big thing around the office and it was really fun and everyone was like trying to get the high scores. And it was really cool. That must have felt really good, by the way, Jonic, to have like the whole company being like, this is amazing fun, like we're addicted to it.
Yeah, it was a bit like an internal meme, I guess. Actually, Kevin, does Kevin ever come on the stream? Kevin sent me a message on Slack yesterday saying that he is now a Knifey Spooney addict. It's going to change his whole life. So
yeah, it does happen. And then when I knew you were coming on, I thought, right, what I'll do is I'll deconstruct Knifey Spooney because I think everyone watching is going to think it's amazing and it would be really fun to be able to make your own one in Scratch. So I had a tinker and I put it together. And like I said, I thought about the way your game was designed. Like I put the logic of it together and then went into the project and thought, how do you build that in Scratch? And it took a little while to mess around. So those at home who are using the starter project, you'll see that when I look inside the starter, on the spoon sprite, that you'll see that there's no code whatsoever, but on the backdrops, I've left the code in. So the code on the backdrop is there for you guys so you don't have to do it. And what that does is that's really just to kick off the game. So when you click the green flag, it switches to this backdrop for us. And then it waits until you press X to start. Like you can see here in my workspace, press X, just waits until you do that. And then it plays the sound to start the game. sets all my variables down, and then broadcast start to the game. And it also has the end condition here. So when you lose, this part, again, takes control and ends the game for you and makes sure it all works. And it also controls the timer. So you'll know from any of our other streams that when I do this sort of thing, what I usually like to do is make sure that all of my control mechanisms for the game are in one place, and that's on my backdrop. So they're the big mechanisms that make it work. And so if you guys now click onto the spoon, we can start adding a bit of code to make your project a little bit more useful, I guess is the right word. So let's just zoom in a little bit on my blocks. That should do it. Let's have a look. So the first thing we want, right, is we need a when green flag clicked. So let's see how big that is. Yeah, cool. Maybe a little smaller. That's it. Fantastic. So when green flag clicked, you'll see that I've got my sprite. I'll go looks and I'll say show. Okay, so remember, if you double click the blocks in your Scratch menu, it activates them. It just does the thing to your program. So I want to show my sprite. So I just double click show and it shows it. So you can see I've got a sprite there and it has all these different costumes on it. Okay, so it's got a knife costume, a spoon costume. Mine isn't as cool as yours, Jonic. I've only got the one's knife and the one spoon. So you've got all these cool different designs. I will eventually do it. Like you say, my polishing in is to make a bunch more knives and a bunch more spoons, and we'll get there. And it's also got these costumes here, Christina, the 3, 2, 1. What do you predict I've got those there for?
That's for when the game starts, right? So
Totally.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love the idea that you had that just in the singular sprite costume, because I was wondering when you first, I was like, we just got the spoon, where's the knife? So we have to have both. So I think that's brilliant to have it both in the costumes.
Cool.
And go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the reason they're all on the one is because you could do it with a bunch of sprites, show me a knife, show me a spoon. But at the end of the day, that would make it very complicated to work with. You'd be moving between all your sprites. And really, you can just do it with the one and make it look different. That's all the thing cares about at the end of the day. But what were you going to say, sorry?
I don't remember, but let's continue coding.
Cool. So the first thing I want it to do is when I start my game and it gets ready to kick off, right? Because when the green flag is clicked, it does my begin the game sequence inside my backdrop. And it does all of these things and then broadcast start to make my game go. Okay, so this is what happens as well when I click green flag. Don't forget that. It's waiting for you to click X when you do that. And so the first thing I want to do is get rid of this spoon because it's blocking my instructions. So when I click the green flag, hide my spoon. Bang. Okay, so when you guys click the green flag, I'm not sure if you can hear my sound. I don't think you can. But what it does is it will play a sound for you. It's actually the meme that is that's not a knife. This is a knife, which for those of you who haven't watched The Simpsons in about, what, 20 years or maybe longer, it's a super old joke, kids. Like it's older. It's an older joke than you. But basically, it's an Australianism from Crocodile Dundee, which is about 50 years old. That's not a knife, this is a knife. Australian guy threatens somebody else. And on The Simpsons, they did a joke about it being a spoon, which is why Jonic made a game about this really obscure joke that almost every Australian kid probably knows. If you're watching in Australia, I bet you know what Knifey Spooney is. And so, yeah, that's why we want to do that. So we're going to crack on now. So it's waiting for start. It's waiting for me to push X, and then it will broadcast start, right? That starts our game. You see here again, broadcast start. So when I push X, you'll see that the glowing outline around my code will stop because it's done now, right? It'll get to the end and broadcast start and the glow will stop, right? My script has killed. It's dead, right? So it started. It's swapped my background to stars like it says here and it's broadcast start. So what I want to do now is receive that message. So when I receive start, okay, so once everything is good and my game is ready to go and I want the mechanics to start happening, I need my sprite to count down 3, 2, 1. Yeah? How, Christina? How do I do it? How do I get my sprite to do the 3, 2, 1 thing? I'm putting you on the spot now.
You did put me on the spot. I was just reading, though, that Odney said, thanks for keep doing these streams. So you're very welcome, Odney. We're so glad you're here. Now, how do I get it to do 3, 2, 1? I think we have to have it. Will it be another broadcast message?
No. So when we receive this one, this is the script now that's going to change that costume for us. So we want it to do the thing. How would I get it to do a sequence of changes that will make it go from 3 to the 2 to the 1 that we saw earlier?
Oh, we're changing costumes.
Yeah. Because we've got them here, remember? Check it. So they're all here. We need it to look like this, then look like this, then look like this.
So I think we're going to pull in a block that's going to switch the costumes, right?
Yeah, totally. So I'll pull one in.
Okay.
All right. And you see here's all the costumes I have available. So the first one we want is 3. Yeah.
That's a good
and
point. Then 3, 2, 1, not 1, 2, 3. Some folks might count 1, 2, 3, but they can pick that one if they want.
Well, it's up to you. If you want it to go the other way around, right? It's totally up to you. You can do that. You can say 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3. But I followed Jonic's example and counted it down just because that's a bit more of the way I like to do stuff as well. And so I've got remembering that the first thing we do was hide this sprite. We then want it to show. So we make sure that it looks like the 3 before it comes back. Right, that was a thing. That was a bug I fixed later on. Sometimes it would come back and look like the spoon and then be the 3, and it just looked janky. So after a little playing around, I managed to fix that. That went the way I wanted it to. So it shows, and then it's a countdown, right? So we wait a second, and then we duplicate exactly that same thing. So then we say switch costume to 2.
And that wait is important, folks. That wait is super important. Jonic, out of curiosity, does the logic work the same way in Pico 8 as it is how we're doing it here in Scratch?
Kind of, yeah, except it doesn't use the sprites. It just uses its text library. So I'm just telling it to just write a number 3 on the screen. And then I'm animating because they bounce into place. So I've written a little function that calculates where they should be over a given time. So it bounces into place. It's that kind of thing that, like, that's why it took me so long to write the thing. So this would have been much easier.
Yeah, I imagine it was.
It might just be the next game in Scratch, to be honest.
It was a really fun thing to deconstruct, right? Like this part here is kind of all cosmetic though. Like this isn't really the game mechanic, right, Jonic? Like this is sort of, we always haven't even started making the game part of the game yet, right?
Yeah.
And when you came to the logic of it, how did you build the logic of the game? Like when it shows you the knife, what is it waiting for?
So it's most games work around the idea of a loop. So it waits for input, and depending on the input, it will determine what it needs to do next. And then, I wasn't expecting this question. I haven't looked at the code for Knifey so long. I should have looked. Damn it. Yeah, so it's running a counter constantly. So it's ticking down to determine whether or not you have time left in order to tell it if it's a knife or a spoon. And if that gets to 0, you get game over. And it waits for a key press. If you press the one that it matches, it starts the loop again and it changes the sprite. But if you get it incorrect, it follows the same path as if you would run out of time and shows the game over screen.
Awesome, because that's exactly how I built this one. Wicked.
Cool.
Nice. I feel vindicated. I'm like, excellent. That's what I hoped he would say. So we've got the bit here. So this is the cosmetic part. This is our 3, 2, 1, everybody. So if you've got the same code as me, you'll be ready to go. We'll count down. And then we want to broadcast. This is when we want to start the mechanics. So like I said, we haven't started the actual game, the logic tree that Jonic just described to us. That hasn't started yet. So the reason I put that into its own part is so that we can have that part and it will be that loop that Jonic asked for. It just returns back to play every time you either get it right or wrong. It will just say play, right? Okay, cool. Play, right. Okay, play, right. Play, right. Play, wrong, die. And that's how the game ends. And then the timer part Jonic talks about, that's the part we're going to start with now. So if you've got when I receive start and you should come all the way to broadcast play, the next thing we need is the logical step is to receive play. So we're going to make a new script here. I'll just come down here.
While you're adding that, I just want to give a shout out to Hunter and Scout, who they just sent us a message like, I'm your biggest fan, Scout is too. So they're either talking to me, Jonic, Mark, Scratch, or Raspberry Pi. So we're just going to all take that love. So thank you, Hunter and Scout. We're fans of you too.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It's always nice to hear that that you're helping people out and that they enjoy what you do. So we've got when I receive play, our thing, like Jonic says, it's always counting down on you. It's always counting down. In this sense, with Scratch, it counts up. Right, so the mechanic is the same, but all I'm doing is waiting. And if your timer gets to 3, you're out. Jonic's one would have been I start at 3 and go to 0. And if you get to 0, you're out. Is that the way it worked in your one?
Yeah, let's just say yeah.
Cool. So with this one as well, and we can add the mechanic later, which is the thing that we'll do. I also had the time reduce every time you got it right. Does your one get faster and faster, Jonic?
It does up to a certain point, because if it kept getting faster forever, then it would get to the point where you would have no time at all in which to actually react. So there is a stopping point.
Okay, mine doesn't have that stopping point. I was a bit more brutal than you. I think I thought if you can get that far, then more power to you. Like, fantastic. Cool. So we've got our timer's been reset, and then now what we need it to do. So when I receive play, we want it to go 3, 2, 1, game. Right. So what's the game, Christina? What does the game do when it starts? It first asks you what? It shows you something.
It's going to show you either a knife or a spoon, and then you have to click Knifey or Spooney.
Absolutely. So now we want it to show me a knife or a spoon. Yeah. So switch my costume to, okay, and now I want it to pick either costume. You have a look at my costumes. I've got knife is 1 and 2. So I'm going to use a pick random 1 to 2.
Gotcha.
Okay, and then it can only pick from the first and second costumes whenever it appears from now. Once this loop starts, it can only be a knife or a spoon. It will never be 3, 2, or 1 again. Fingers crossed. Okay, and then once it shows me that, it has to know whether this is a knife or a spoon. Okay, so Scratch has to know what it's looking for. So I tell it if, all right, so switch to costume 1 or 2. If your costume equals, so I put my equals in first, and then I go to my looks and I get my costume number, because remembering that Scratch can check what number costume it's currently wearing on this sprite. So if my costume number equals 1, which is checking again, that's my knife. And I always try to keep them in the order 1, 2, Knifey Spooney, because it's easier to remember. It's less confusing. So if costume number equals 1, then go to the knife, because it knows this is a knife. So it needs to check if you're a knife. If it's a spoon, else it's a spoon, and so check for spoon. So in there I get a broadcast, and I'm going to have a mechanic for a knife and one for a spoon. So I say broadcast new message, and I want it to say knifey. And in this case, I want it to broadcast a new message, and this one will be spoony. Okay, and so whichever one it's chosen, so now once Scratch chooses knife or spoon, it then starts the mechanic to check for that one or the other one, depending on what it's done, right? And so we're still waiting for input from the player at this point. Everything that's happening is just the sprite setting itself up to look right. So if you guys have got the same code as me, when we run our code, you'll see it runs the sound. So you'll be hearing the sound, and it's waiting for me to push X. So I push X.
Got a countdown working.
And it shows me one or the other. Fantastic. Okay. And my timer ran out, so the game died, right? So you'll see that underneath my backdrop here, that's this script working. When timer is greater than time, and timer always starts at 3. So when I have more than 3 seconds, game dies, game over. Okay, next part. So this is the complex part, guys. But once we've done it, we just copy it, right? Because like as you know, I always work smarter. I rarely work harder. And so we want to go when I receive knifey, and we're going to build that knife mechanic now. So remembering, what's your game waiting for, Jonic? When you start for the knife or the spoon, how did you do your inputs?
So it just uses the left or the right key, and if you press left, it will broadcast a particular message, and then we compare the message that is broadcast to the thing that it's expecting. Nice,
yeah, absolutely. And so I'm waiting until you push a key, right? So if you push left or right arrow in this instance, so we need an or, left or right arrow. So here's our or under controls there, so under our operators. So wait until something is pressed. So I want left arrow or right arrow. Oh, that jumped out. Wait for the glow, there it is. Left arrow or right arrow are pressed. Cool. So if anything else is pressed, the game doesn't care. It's locked out all the other keys. It is now only waiting until left or right arrow are pressed. It's the only things it cares about. Now, this is our knifey. Do you remember which one knifey was? Was it left or right, Christina? Do you remember?
Ooh, which on Jonic's game or on this game?
On our game. Well, ours is hopefully the same as Jonic.
Left. Knifey's left.
Absolutely. So if you've pressed the left arrow, and so rather than drag a new block in and do all that messing around, I'm just going to juke my left arrow block. So if left arrow key is pressed, then you win, right? And we want to start that loop again. So you play a good sound, which you'll see, guys, are all already added to your sprites. The sounds will be there in the starter project. You just drag them across. So we want it to start our sound rather than play the sound until done. We just want it to kick off 1 with collect, which is the positive noise. We want it to change the score by 1. So we need our score to go up. So where are my variables? Here they are. Change score by 1. Okay, so add a point to my score. And then I want you to change the time, which is the amount of time you have available to you to answer the next question. And I'm going to make that go down by a 20th of a second. But you can do it whatever you want. Remember, the bigger the number there, the more brutal you are being to your player. Okay, so I'm taking the 20th of a second. Every time you get it right, it gets 0.05 of a second faster. So after 20, you've got a second left, right? So that's not too bad. I figure that's a nice smooth curve for your player.
You know, when you asked me knife or spoon, I actually remembered it because of my hand. I clicked my thumb. I was like, that's left. Because I was playing it so much earlier to try and get a higher score.
And so now, if you've pressed left arrow, you've got the right answer. Your score's gone up by 1. Your time available to you has gone down by a 20th of a second. And then you broadcast again, start the loop that shows me a knife or a spoon, which is play. We go back up to play, which is show me a knife, show me a spoon, and then decide what you're doing. If you lose, okay, so if you run out of sort of time or if you get the wrong answer, So you've got that else, right? So if you've pressed the left arrow, then this does it. Otherwise, you've got it wrong, okay? So you need to check. I've got a high score, but you don't have to do that, okay? So in my one, there's a high score, which will pop in now. So where's my control blocks? Okay, which is just an if statement. So if my score now is higher than the current high score, which are both variables I have here. So if my score is more than the current high score, then set my high score to the current score. We just built a high scoreboard, right? In like 4 blocks. The next thing we want to do is you've now lost the game. So we're going to change your high score to be the current score, and then we're going to tell you, you lose, broadcast lose, okay? And then make the knifey spoon go away because we don't want to see it now. It's about to show us that we lost. That's the whole game mechanic to detect the knife. Now, watching closely, right-click, duplicate, pop it down, say Spooney, change this to right arrow. That's game.
Boom, mic drop.
Same mechanic, exactly the same mechanic for the spoon. As long as you get it right, it doesn't care. It says knife or spoon, cool, right, and then starts you off again. And that is pretty much all you need to make it work. That's the whole game. That's Knifey Spooney.
Love it.
I feel like a fool for spending so long on mine. Thanks for that, Mark.
Oh no, bro. See, like I'm running through a thing that I've already done. When I built it, man, it took me a whole afternoon to get it to work. So like, I take my hat off to you. The idea was yours. It's genius. I love it. It's so fun and it's addictive. Yeah.
That's a really cool reference. I'm curious if you got the reference when we mentioned Knifey Spooney earlier. Let us know. Like we want to know if you got it. Because to be honest, I didn't. Then I looked up Knifey Spooney and then I got the Simpsons reference. And then it's amazing. It's so much fun. And I think 2 big things for folks who are new to Scratch, for parents, kids, when you're creating a game in Scratch, I think the 2 biggest things here is duplicate, that right click and being able to duplicate code. That's so important for making a game, and broadcast messages. Those are my favorite blocks. Those absolutely change how you can code in Scratch. Those are 2 really awesome ones to bring back with you. If you make your own Knifey Spooney game, or if you're inspired by this and you want to make a different game, we'd love to hear about it. We'll give you an email at the end of the stream that you can share with us.
Absolutely. There's a community member who, upon seeing Knifey Spooney, he made a Scratch version called Cat or Dino, I think.
Nice.
So there's been a Knifey Spooney clone floating around for a while now.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
Oh, wow.
Well, thanks for being on this week, Jonic. It was awesome to have you, man. Like,
thanks for having me.
Genuinely, we've been wanting to have you on since the beginning, so it's really nice to have you, man. It's been a great chat.
Well, if you ask nicely, maybe I'll do it again. Who knows?
Awesome. Yeah, man. We'd love to have you back anytime. If you make something new, let me know. If you just want to come and, shoot the breeze about working on the website and how that's going.
Yes,
cool.
please. Would love to have you back, Jonic.
Great. Thank you.
See you later, Jonic. Bye.
Awesome. Oh, man, that was cool.
That was so fun. Like, so interesting, inspiring.
It's Cassie time, right?
Oh my gosh, it is Cassie time. Okay, all right, I'll be right back. I have to go get her. Okay, 1 second.
Amazing. Yeah. Like, well, as I was saying before, everybody, I'm so excited to meet her. Like, I've met a couple of Australian shepherds in my time. They're quite common where I come from, I guess, quite obviously. And they are the smartest dogs on earth, as far as I'm aware. I think the only thing in Australia, they're notorious for being clever and escaping. Anything worse than dingo. But she's the cutest.
Isn't she so cute? Hey, Cassie,
I love her heterochromia too. Like her different colored eyes is so cool. She's the cutest.
Yeah, she's got a blue eye and a brown eye. She's just waking up. So she's like, what's going on? Why am I in someone's arms? Because you're so cute and we got 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah, that's so cool. Thanks for joining in, everybody. So you should definitely subscribe like right now if you haven't already. Make sure that you click the button. It's so cool. I mean, it's really good. And it was great to see everybody this week getting involved at home. Shout outs to Eddie's Tech, Odney, Ali, Yolanda, Greg, Scout, Piggy Toon, all these people for your awesome contributions this week. It's great when you chime in, guys. We love hearing from you. Thank you, everyone, for being part of the community.
Yes, thank you so much to everyone. That's all the time we have for this week, but you can always get in touch with us. As I mentioned, send us an email at dmah@raspberrypi.org. We'd love to hear from you. We want to hear if you make a game like Knifey Spooney or you're inspired by another game. And if you're a young digital maker interested in joining the stream, reach out to us.
Absolutely. And don't forget, make sure to subscribe on YouTube at rpf.io/sub, or you can hit the subscribe button if you're on YouTube. It's like literally right there, just that one, and then you get all of our videos when they come out. You'll be the first to know when we go live with all of our other content, with AstroPi, all sorts of other stuff that we do, and releasing it all the time. Shout outs to our community, all the people who are subscribing. It's really great to have you. Thanks for being here again this week for the Digital Making at Home live stream. I keep getting distracted by Cassie. It's like really, she's the cutest. It's unbelievable. But we'll be back next week, guys, same time. And we'll have Eleanor with us next week, who'll be talking to us about her dream of being the first person to walk on Mars. Until then, stay safe and healthy.